Ever since the powers of the Soul Reaper were thrust upon me, my whole world has changed. Now I'm Ichigo Kurosaki, substitute Soul Reaper, and I'm combining my powerful spirit energy with this blade in order to protect my friend!
One of the aspects of Bleach that I believe to be severely underrated is Tite's Kubo ability to explore the self through the utilization of Ichigo and Zangetsu. Throughout the anime, we get to experience the ways in which our orange-haired protagonist views himself and how the view of who he is changes as he gets older. Who are you is an extremely basic question. It's an elementary cliche question.
We'll be asking the questions, old man. Who are you?
You.
No, not me, you.
Yes, I am you.
Just answer the damn questions. Who are you?
However, it is a question that sociologists, psychologists, and philosophers have spent their entire lives pondering, considering in a myriad of different ways. From a psychological standpoint, a common question that is asked is, how do you go about defining who you are? Is who you are defined by how you see yourself, or is it defined by how other people see you? Because the way in which other people see us does affect our sense of self. If people consider you to be unattractive, then chances are that to some extent that has affected the way in which you see your own beauty. Some people define themselves first by using their profession or their interests, their culture, their ethnicity, or by things that they might own. But when you take away those things that you would typically use to define yourself, what are you left with? In many cases, the fact of the matter is that we ourselves don't even know who we truly are. We haven't taken that time to explore ourselves, to figure out who the person behind those superficial things really is. Bleach does a wonderful job of asking this question, who are you, over and over and over again, until our protagonist finally comes to an answer himself in the 1,000-year Blood War arc. The word protector can be used to define Ichigo as a character through and through, from the very beginning of the story to the very end. In the manga, we find out that Ichigo's father, tells him that at a young age his name means to protect something, which is why he enrolled in a karate dojo in the first place. It was to learn to protect his mother. Later on, when his sisters are born as well, he bears the burden of protecting his younger siblings.
Let me ask you something, Captain Overbite. Do you know why big brothers are born first? There's a reason. They're born first so that they can look out for their little brothers and sisters and protect them.
Ichigo!
And here you threaten to kill your own sister.
Because of the fact that Chad had sworn to his grandfather that he would not use his strong body to hurt others, Ichigo decides that he would ward off anyone who decides to pick on Chad, and from that we get one of the wildest scenes in Bleach, one of my favorite scenes in Bleach. However, on the night where our protagonist gains his amazing powers of a Soul Reaper, why is it that he acquires these powers? Once again, it's because he views himself as a protector, as someone who needs to protect his family from this imminent threat. But the question becomes, what happens when you are unable to fulfill the purpose that you believe yourself to be responsible for fulfilling? What happens when you've poured countless hours, days and nights, when you've cried and spent sleepless hours in an endeavor just to fail miserably? For some, it might be like playing a basketball. For a long time, I wanted to be a soccer player. I spent countless hours, day and night, playing soccer left, right, and I was very talented. However, that dream is a dream that is only fulfilled for a small proportion of the population. For others, it would be like failing in classes, failing to obtain the grades which you would need to become a doctor or an engineer. You might end up dropping out of school, or to be honest, it might even just not knowing what you want from life. The question all comes back to, who are you? Because at the end of the day, we are all so much more than our successes or our failures, than our grades or our schooling. So who are you? One of the things that really struck me was when I came to realize that whenever Ichigo got stronger, it wasn't just because he was practicing some new technique to get stronger. Because we all know, if you've watched Bleach, you know there is a lack of diversity in our main characters' abilities. All right, it's Getsuga Tensho till the end. Okay, we live and die by that Getsuga Tensho. Getsuga Tensho for life, okay? We're lifeies, okay? Lifers, or ride or die by the Getsuga Tensho. But rather, Ichigo's strength came from understanding himself better, which was so interesting. His inner world, which we see represented on several occasions, is symbolism for his mental state, his mental and emotional state. And they consistently reflect where Ichigo is as a person. And by interacting with and analyzing that inner self, he would be rewarded with the ability to own his blade, to own his person, an extension of himself. In the early occasions of Ichigo analyzing his inner self or his inner world, he's unable to do so effectively. He sees Zangetsu, but he's far off, and the inner world doesn't have much color. It doesn't have much volume. It doesn't, like, he really doesn't know who he is or who he desires to be as a person. He's only beginning to understand who he is, and considering the fact that he's just 15, that's absolutely reasonable. No 15-year-old really understands who they are or who they're going to be. On another occasion, just to demonstrate the fact that this internal world is a reflection of his mental and emotional state, Zangetsu tells him, Ichigo, I'm tired of the rain. That he doesn't like the rain, and that he will do anything in his power to make the rain go away. And we find out that the rain inside Ichigo's inner world is a symbol of grief, which rain is very typically used to demonstrate. The rain is a symbol of sorrow and the helplessness that Ichigo feels, similar to wandering around without any purpose, without any goals, without any desires, without any hope. And that's one of the things that, when I recognized it, it really blew my mind when it came to Kubo's depiction of the self. The fact of the matter is that no one can tell you who you are, but just like everyone else, you've been blessed with gifts and talents that you can use for good or for bad. But one of the ways we learn about ourselves and how to use these gifts is through self-reflection. It's by spending time inside that inner world, taking time to consider yourself, what it is that you desire, why it is that you desire these things, what the people around you mean to you, and how you can better yourself to be there for those who you care for and who care for you. And it might sound like some very basic stuff, but I guarantee you that self-reflection is something that a lot of people lack, like most of us lack. And even those of us who do recognize the importance of self-reflection, of meditation, of mindfulness, there's always more of it and different angles in which we can take to better ourselves. How can we possibly know what we want out of life, what we want in a life partner, how we want to impact the world, if we do not know ourselves first? What happens when life bites you in the cheeks and you come to recognize that your analysis of yourself is incorrect, or it doesn't match up to what you had previously thought? Because the thing is that even when we develop that self-reflection, there will be times where we miss our own red flags, where we fail to hit the mark. Internal struggles may go unnoticed for a period of time, brewing until it inevitably fills us with bitterness, anger, resentment, and may eventually fester into hopelessness. Ichigo finds himself in the same situation. The hollow inside of him, which is a part of his strength, becomes a danger to himself and those who he loves, to the point where many of his loved ones cannot recognize him and even fear him. Facing so many burdens and the fact that he is in many ways unable to recognize himself and perform his role as a protector, this causes Ichigo a lot of pain. It causes him despair, it causes him fear, it causes his internal world to reign. And this is later made worse when he loses his powers, because without his powers, he's no longer able to be himself. He's no longer able to be the protector. He is no longer to be who he believes himself to be. So what happens to us when that's the case, when we have that cognitive dissonance, when we have that disconnect? In the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, and spoilers for those who haven't seen it as yet, and just the anime adaptation of it, by speaking to his father about his mother, Ichigo learns about his family history, the lineage, and about how those things affect him as a person. He finds out that because of his father being a Soul Reaper, and about his mother being a Quincy, that's the reason why he has always had such a strong spiritual energy, and likely why he has been able to see ghosts for as long as he can remember. He learns that his Quincy blood is part of the reason why he's still alive to this day, and that it has saved him on numerous different occasions from like the closest calls, situations where all other Soul Reapers or most other Soul Reapers would have died. He learns that the source of his hollow inside of him, he learns the source of it and the reason which he has always been different in comparison to other individuals fighting for control of what's inside of him. And finally, he comes to recognize that these individuals simply represent different parts of him. The Quincy aspect of him and the hollow aspect of him represent opposing sides that have been opposing each other since the beginning of time. The Quincy wanting to obliterate hollows, while the Soul Reaper wants to save the souls. And understanding himself fully through self-reflection and by speaking about his issues with someone who's more knowledgeable and who has an understanding of his history, his lineage, he gains a deeper understanding of who he is as a person and who he desires to be. Ichigo acknowledges that the blade that he holds, the Soul Reaper aspect, the Quincy aspect, the hollow aspect, is him. He recognizes his own strengths as well as his weaknesses, and in taking in both the good and the bad, he becomes the strongest version of himself, the strongest version in which he's ever seen. Now, all of this is just, I could talk about it for hours. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I will be looking forward to making more content. Thank you very much for watching. This is my channel. Peace.
But I can't have her. Now I gotta leave her.